Okay, and we are recording. Hey everyone, Brendan Coates here, Bodies by Brendan, author, speaker, educator, and clinical nutritionist. And sometimes I like to interview people, and sometimes people like to interview me. But right now, the tables are totally turned, and my guest is Ben Leavitt, social media expert, entrepreneur, self-made individual, and very young, I should say. And it's pretty exciting to interview such a entrepreneur at such a young age who's made a name for himself. In fact, if you were watching the news just a couple of weeks ago, he was being interviewed. How was that?
That was a really cool experience. And I don't know how much you want to go into that, but it's a pretty funny story how it all happened.
Tell you what, why don't we start with who you are, what your background is, who is Ben, and then
Yeah,
we'll go into that newscast in a little while.
for sure. So that's always a tough question. Who are you? But if I had to try to compartmentalize that and put it into something small, I would say that I am a social media strategist. To say I'd probably say that's the best all-encompassing term right there. I do my best to highlight the opportunities that are present on social media and to try to make that as easy and approachable for people out there who may be intimidated or confused by it. So I help businesses, I help individuals, personal brands, just try to understand the opportunities that are present on the platforms and how they can best utilize it for their specific offering that they have.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, for our viewers and listeners, one of the things that I take so much pride in is how you and I met through organic
Mm-hmm.
social media. I was just trying to search for some strategies for myself that I could implement into Instagram, and
Yeah.
I saw some of your videos on YouTube. I absolutely love what you say, your energy, just how organic you are, and you've got so much humility, and there's such a huge personality behind you. And it's just, I find that people have a lost sense of that, but you've certainly been able to do that, and you got my attention, and so many thousands more as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do, because I try my best to do that. So it's really great to hear that that's how it was perceived when someone was actually watching it.
Good, good. Okay, so how about this? Why social media? Why have you decided to use that as your vehicle for your message?
That's
And is that all that you do?
that's a great question. I would say it's not all that I do. There's a few other things that we'll touch on in a minute. But why I chose social media as kind of my core focus was I was a longtime consumer of social media. I loved the platforms and seeing the lifestyles and businesses and careers that people were building that didn't come from privilege. They didn't have this given to them, but they were able to create it for themselves. And as someone who is always been very naturally driven, I've always wanted to do things on my own. To see that people were no different than me, building crazy lifestyles, achieving everything they wanted, all from a platform where people could come get educated or enjoy entertainment, all for free. That was really, really eye-opening to me. And there was a few creators that really opened the eye to say, like, that guy's no different than me. Why couldn't I do this? As for your question, do I do anything else besides social media? I do general business consulting. I think I'll be I'll help people build businesses and brands for the rest of my life. I love that creation aspect or the pivot aspect. Like if I can look at someone's business or situation and if there's just a few things that I would tweak, being able to implement those and seeing the difference that it can have in someone's life or their business, that's really, really gratifying to me. And then I also love podcasting, things like this, getting the opportunity to speak to people like yourself. Just I think conversations are the oldest tool that we is known to humans, and I think they're the most powerful tool. So having the opportunity to have just deep, meaningful conversations is something that I'm all for, and that's what podcasting is all about.
Yeah, I know that's great. It's there's certainly, you can't beat a good stimulating conversation, and
Can't do it.
you can't get that over text or email or anything like that, right?
No, it is real, and that's one of the biggest selling points that I would say to anybody who's debating starting a podcast is the opportunity. Like after you have a conversation with someone in this type of environment, it's no longer just surface level. You leave as friends, and that's pretty difficult to do, and especially with how much separates us actually with between all these different pieces of technology. To break that down and get to that human core aspect of it, like that's pretty special.
Yeah, no, that's great, and especially with distance and the power of the internet.
Exactly.
We can be friends at any distance.
100%. Yeah, your network is not limited to your area code, which is awesome.
Right. I like that. Just really quickly going back to, you'd mentioned a really good point about area of privilege. Do you want to just expand on that? Because I think the way internet and the way people have perceived themselves sometimes
Hmm.
isn't so.
Yeah, I think. I'm not totally sure if I'm grasping all that you're trying to ask here, but I think for me, what drew me to the internet so much was that a lot of the time back in the day, like people who were in power or who had influence, they were either they had a lot of money behind them or they truly did get like very, very lucky, right time, right place. Where I think that the internet kind of opened those gates for anybody who's willing to put in the time and effort. So that really, really appealed to me, that I didn't have to have all this money because I didn't come from a family of money and I don't come from a family of status. So to try to do things that you want to do, the fact that you can now with the internet is absolutely amazing. I think there's a saying in economics, it's like the market will tell you the truth. The market does never lies. Well, the market is now social media in terms of attention. So the market will not lie, and it's true, genuine feedback that's in real time. So you can continue to get better, you continue to grow, and the opportunities there for what you can do, and you don't have to pay for that audience is quite remarkable.
No, that's exactly where I was going with that question. It's,
Okay, awesome.
In the area of privilege, but I guess back in the day, if you had that money or if you had that background or that family background, sure, opportunities were there. But if you didn't, the opportunities were not. But
Exactly.
with what you're doing is you can create that opportunity.
100%. And I think what I love about social media is that it's one of those things where if you learn it, like I spent so much time investing how to do the things the right way. It's scalable. Like you can just repeat these practices and adapt it to people's unique things. And that's why I love consulting so much, is because anybody can do it. Especially once you're equipped with the tools, then you can spread your unique message, and there's a demand for it too.
I don't think anyone can do it. I think the good people can with the time. And there's a lot of people that choose not to do it, or they're just so occupied with so many other
Yeah,
things.
for sure. I think the opportunity is there for the people willing to invest the time.
And that's where you come in, because you're the
Exactly.
man and you offer those services. So
For sure. That's it.
what separates you, Ben, from other social media influencers and experts? Yeah, that's basically it. What makes you special?
I don't, I don't think there's anything too special. I think that the difference is for me, my willingness to work and to learn from everyone. So I'm constantly, I'm always absorbing more. I'm never complacent with it. I think because of how fast these change and how I'm stimulated mentally, is constantly absorbing more information. It's a very good fit because there's constantly more for me to consume and more for me to then relay and teach. So I would say that's a big thing, is I wouldn't consider myself an influencer. I'd consider myself more of an educator or a motivator, however you'd want to coin it. And
Right.
I think that's why I like it so much. And that's what
It's
makes me different.
you said always learning, and folks, you've got to check out his YouTube channel. What is it, by the way? If you, just for
It's
the
just my
viewers.
name, Ben Leavitt.
Okay, so you're always pushing out like great content, but it's so current, and like you're talking about algorithms and these topics that are so they're timeless, but they're in time and they're so current, and so it takes a lot to be able to learn and adapt to that, which is quite remarkable. So who's teaching you? Where are you getting these state of the art, like these current things from, these tactics?
Yeah, so I saw that this was a huge, huge demand because of my unique university experience. So I was studying marketing in school, and coming into it, I did have this deep connection to social media. And I thought that that's what we'd be learning about. I'm like, I'm coming into school. It's like 2015. I'm like, hey, well, we have to be learning about this stuff. And what I consumed was garbage. Like there was no solid material whatsoever. So I was left like, is this the current state of what we're being taught? This is brutal. So I went out looking for myself. I consumed countless hours of videos, blogs, articles, like just so many things. Anything I could get my hands on, books, just constantly learning. And then once you reach a tipping point, it becomes a lot easier to consume. I'd say I reached that point a few years ago where I was like, okay, it all kind of comes together, and you start checking all those boxes internally. It just makes a lot more sense. So it really came from a place of need where it wasn't there. So I went out looking for it.
And was that need through yourself? Was that your own need, or a need from others you felt?
Yeah, so it was a combination of the two. So selfishly, again, speaking to what I said earlier, I had seen so many people that I looked up to build these core amazing lives strictly based off the influence that they developed here. And then for other people, I saw that as an opportunity for one, a career, but two, specifically, I was in an internship program at my university. And all these companies were wanting people to come in and be a social media expert. And then we'd get there and we would have no resources because we weren't taught it in school. So then it just creates a terrible environment where the employer feels like they were ripped off. You feel like you weren't given the tools. So from that point forward, I wanted to make sure that one, I knew the tools, but for anybody else who might be thrown at that same position, they could come across my YouTube channel and then go in and make good to their boss and help them out.
So is that what you're saying? And I don't want to take too much time, but is that what you're saying? Most businesses, if they're looking for marketing strategies,
Yep.
they're almost exclusively, or like they're really looking for social media compared to what used to be maybe 10, 15 years ago?
I would say it's a good 80% of social media for a few reasons. One, it's so trackable and you don't need a lot of investment to do some of it.
Right.
So it's, if you're a small business, it makes so much sense. Plus the targeting and the unique nature of
Mm-hmm.
that current based content, you can't do that in any other form of media where it's live and relevant and speaking directly to a specific subset of an audience.
Right.
It's pretty tough to match that anywhere else. Like, it's almost impossible. The opportunity for contextual advertising is off the charts because you could run numerous different ad sets speaking to one specific attribute that you were targeting for,
Right.
which is not possible anywhere else.
Right. Of course. Here's an off-topic question. How much money
Yeah.
have you spent and, let's say, reinvested in your tools?
In terms of equipment, or what do you think?
Yeah, in terms of continuing education, because it seems like you've been accumulating a lot more education post-graduating from
Yes.
University of Guelph, and equipment as well.
Yeah, so in terms of education, I do try to absorb as many free resources as possible because you can get a lot of amazing free. But I'm also an advocate for investing in education that's going to save you time, because I definitely value my time. And if I can spend a little bit of money, but then get all of the information I'm trying to consume in one easy to go through package, for me, that's worth the the money investment. So I will invest in courses. I'd say probably $3,000 over the past few years in courses and different forms of education beyond school. And then in terms of equipment, I have a pretty sweet camera. It's a Sony A6400. That was about $1,400. And then my podcasting gear, I'm in a lucky position now where I get a lot of it for free, but through brand deals and whatnot. But formerly, I only spent a few $100 on it because I found the best deals on the market, which really helped me out a lot. Whereas like this microphone I'm talking about right here and talking into right here, I love it, and it's under $100. So you can really get away with it for pretty cheap.
Right. It's, maybe we'll save a lot of that information on how you've leveraged yourself to acquire some of these tools. We'll leave that for the live and in-person event, but
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that because now you're, the time, the dues that you've spent, you're seeing some dividends on the back end, which is amazing. That's
big time. Yeah, I know, it's super awesome. And just I've seen the impact it can have on my life. So that's why all I want to do is share that with people.
And I guess it's pretty reassuring too, the fact that someone reaches out to you and they say, hey, can you try this, or do you want that, or right?
Yeah, it's super cool because when you're starting at the beginning of that mountain, you think that day is never going to come. so I try, like, now that they happen with somewhat regularity, I still try to get equally as excited, because thinking back to even 4 or 5 years ago, Ben, like how excited he would have been that someone was willing to give him something for free, or pay him even and give it to him for free just for him to talk about it. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, good job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
What direction do you think social media is headed? Because there's so many opinions, and people say it's the devil and people say it's great. Where do you think it's headed? And I guess you can maybe generalize, because really there's so many different avenues of social media.
Yeah, definitely. I think that very much depends on the platform, but from a whole, I have some issues when people say that like social media is the devil. I think what it does is it really turns a mirror back in your face. So it can be really whatever you want it to be. I think a lot of people play victim. They have a victim mentality when it comes to the consumption of content.
Okay.
You regulate what you consume. You can go onto Instagram and make it only a positive environment if you so choose to do that. So that's something that I'm a huge advocate for. I actually have a future video coming out talking about how to eliminate negativity on social media. And there's these tools and these platforms have that at your disposal where you can restrict what you consume. So I think they're as good as you want them to be, because you dictate what you consume and you dictate what you create as well. So if you are putting out positive content and surrounding yourself with positive people, that's only going to build you up, where it can also go the complete other way. And human nature, we tend to talk about the bad more than the good. So the bad gets publicized so more often than the amazing things that are happening every single day on social media.
It's amazing that you bring that up, because as a clinical nutritionist, I work with people with addictions, food addictions, and it's the same thing. At the end of the day, no one's forcing that individual to eat that food that's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one forcing an individual to absorb what's unhealthy in front of a cell phone, and yet they're doing it. But there's the other option to eat healthy and consume healthy choices as well. So you make a really good point that at the end of the day, it's everyone's choice.
100%. And I'd say addiction is definitely a real thing, but like I'm sure with the help that you provide, like there's steps that you can do. There's little things that you can change. It's not going to be an overnight switch. You can't flick it. Unfortunately, it's not a light switch. You can turn on and off, but there are things that you can do to manipulate the variables to ensure that you're in the best position possible to avoid those negative things.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Two more questions, because like I
Yeah.
said, we're in a hurry. Ben is a very busy guy, and so am I.
No, I got time. I got time.
So how about this? How about some nuggets and some free tips for the
Yeah.
viewers and audience? What would you say is maybe 3 tips for the audience that they can implement today in their maybe strategies for social media?
So is this across any platform?
Why don't I pick 3? How about that?
Perfect. I'll give you one for each.
We'll do 1 YouTube,
Okay.
1 Instagram, and
Yeah.
1, how about the old-fashioned Facebook?
Facebook. Okay. So if we're starting with YouTube, I'd say this is one sentence that I love to use as often as possible. YouTube is a salesperson you don't have to pay. When you get
Can you repeat that?
YouTube is a salesperson you don't have to pay. And I can elaborate on that further. YouTube is a search engine. It's in fact the second largest search engine on the planet.
Next
It is
to?
Google.
Very good.
And Google
Okay.
and Google owns YouTube as well.
Right.
So it's constructed for people to find you. So if you make decent content, your ideal viewer and your ideal customer will find you. And that eliminates selling out of the equation. And that's one of the biggest expenses that businesses have is the cost of a sale. So now if you put out decent content and have a solid content strategy, that expense is now gone. You make money from the YouTube channel potentially, and they're selling your product. That's what's been the biggest life changer for me is I don't have to sell my service. I don't have to sell myself. People come to me because YouTube is my salesperson selling me, if that makes sense.
I've got a question then, because you can probably put some tracking behind this.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking on YouTube for, I guess, Instagram tips.
Yep.
And I don't know how many I came across.
Yeah.
And then I came across yours. I watched it. And then I watched another video.
Yeah.
And then I watched another video. And I think you kindly reminded the viewer to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And I resonated with you so much that I did both. And then the rest is history, essentially. Yeah. But how would someone who's keying in, Instagram tips, how would they find you? Like, what's the strategy behind that on YouTube?
For sure. So first of all, I'm very glad that you said that you did all those things, because that means everything that I'm attempting to do is working, because that's one of the biggest metrics that YouTube tracks is watch session time. So the fact that you watch numerous videos in one session, that helps me out a lot, because they think they have more trust in me now to show me to more people. In terms of how you came across me, that has all to do with the metadata associated with content. And that's a little more high level YouTube optimization and search engine optimization that I target for exactly that reason. The fact that I get into the mind of the viewer. What are they looking for? What problems do they have? And what are they going to type in to seek out those desired outcomes? So I literally regulate everything around that to speak YouTube's language to ensure I am that video that pops up on the first page, because no one scrolls to the second page.
Right.
So if you don't get on that first page, it's all for naught. So I do, this all comes down to research beforehand, before even hitting play.
So one more question on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Do you pay for your placements or anything like that in YouTube?
I will never pay for my placements, but you can. You can pay to be at the top, very similar to with Google advertising, as you can pay to rank at the top. Mm-hmm. But once you get good at YouTube optimization, you don't have to. So if I can be the one right below and not have to pay for it, that's a no-brainer to me. Plus, the people who are paying at the top is usually a reason why they're paying, and it does look almost kind of gimmicky. So I've become accustomed to not even look at the ads. I scroll down right to the next one, and that's where my bearing is set. Where like, okay, this is the top ranked video. I disregard the ad.
Right. Okay, that's great. So why don't we move to Instagram?
Sure. So Instagram is, I think, probably the biggest opportunity for a small business. Like a local small business. I don't think there's anything better because of the relationship building aspect, and also because of how constant people are on the platform and how constant the engagement or the people that they receive engagement from is. So let me elaborate on that. So if you have your mom or your dad and they have maybe 100 followers, it's all their core friends. If a business comes on and interacts with their content, that's viewed as a big deal. for that person as well as their friend group who sees that. So the opportunity to create relationships in your area is unmatched. So I've helped numerous people build their whole business strictly off of Instagram for all free organic means. It does take some time investment, but it is incredibly powerful for that relationship building and for free organic marketing. So I think that if you're not on Instagram yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think the other thing on Instagram is that people do overcomplicate it. It can be simplified and still executed to a very high degree, but people get so worked up about it that they get into a state of analysis paralysis, and then they just end up doing nothing. So I think that there's a big opportunity there for any medium to small business that they should really take advantage of.
And so without, you know, consuming or without maybe troubling themselves with too much information, you're saying is just develop the relationships at the beginning?
At the very least, even if you're not going to put content out there, like I'd say at least have a few pictures so people know that you're not a spam account.
Sure.
But the relationship building aspect of it is so incredibly powerful. If they have to choose between two substitutes for the exact same product, and one of them is a core contributor to their content or comments on their things, who are they going to pick?
Of course.
Obviously, they're going to pick on the relationship. We humans were creatures of emotion, and a relationship is how we express the levels of emotion. So I think that is absolutely something people should be leveraging.
I hope these listeners and viewers are paying attention and writing notes, because this is amazing information right now.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
One more, let's call it the old-fashioned one, Facebook.
Okay, Facebook, I can do that in one word: video. Video is massive on Facebook, and they're going to continue to put more emphasis on video because they've seen how incredibly powerful it is. So they're doing their best to create their own version of the YouTube wormhole, which a lot of people talk about, how they start watching video and they're there forever.
Yeah.
Facebook is doing their best to do that as well. So if you do have a Facebook page and you do have some sort of strategy on that platform, video is a great way to go because they are pushing more videos based on location, interest, so that more people can find you organically, similar to a search engine function.
Got it. That's great. Video is very powerful. And I know that because it works for me very well. So
exactly.
Last question. So I'm going to plug the event that I have invited you to speak at. So it's
of course
April the 3rd, Living Legends in Leadership, downtown Toronto at the Westin Harbour Castle. You, among 8 other professional speakers, are going to be speaking in their respected fields, and you are the social media guy. So what are going to be some of the things and topics that you're going to present that, let's call it maybe exclusive, where viewers and attendees would not normally find on your YouTube or Instagram or anything like that? What are some of the current things that you find pressing now?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I'm going to try to emphasize is the opportunities that I've created through social media, and that I'm not special. That if they were willing to put the time and investment in, that they could get way bigger results potentially. So just to show that there is a method to the madness and that you can proceduralize results. So I'm definitely going to go into a little bit deeper into YouTube optimization and to show why things are the way that they are, to then hopefully open some eyes to potentially get them going. Definitely want to dive a little bit deeper into the opportunities that are there on Instagram. And then I always advocate for podcasts just because I love them so much. So whenever I have the opportunity, I throw a few cents in there for that. But I think the biggest takeaway where people will leave with a real eye-opening experience is that of the content that I'm going to talk about with YouTube.
Right. And one more question. If people are not inclined to invest all of that time and effort, you are reachable, correct? Like, this is your profession. You offer these services. Do you want to just expand on just what you do as a professional again?
Yeah, for sure. So I do run a business called Bunny Media is the name of my agency. And I primarily help with strategy. A big portion of that is in consulting because people typically don't have the budget for me to do all of it for them.
As in like the production and stuff like that?
Exactly, yeah. So typically it's more on a knowledge transfer basis, but I do also a lot of YouTube management. So for that metadata stuff,
right.
The biggest goal is to help people grow across major platforms. My biggest being YouTube, podcasting, and then Instagram is a big one as well. Mm-hmm. So I try to help businesses leverage that as much as possible, primarily in strategy, sometimes within content creation. It really depends on what they're looking for. But we're capable of doing the majority of things you'd be looking to do, both paid and organic means.
Any recent success stories or some maybe testimonials that in the back of your head, or any maybe case studies that you really take pride in?
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely been helping a lot of people get started with their podcast. And a former client of mine, I guess he still is. I had a coaching call with him last week. He launched his podcast and he's already got a few thousand listeners coming to it.
Wow.
So that was a pretty awesome thing to hear. He told me his numbers last week and I was like, wow, that's amazing, man. So that was really, really cool. A few other people getting their YouTube channels up and running. That's a big one for me because I've seen how big of a life-changing experience that can be to build that for yourself. So I
Hmm.
think definitely a few people that they'll pop within the next few months or a year or so, and that will be a big thing that I'll love to talk about more.
I guess you're even turning into kind of like a life coach therapist in a way, because people are very shy and insecure of being in front of the camera. So not only are
Yeah.
you strategizing and giving them tools and tactics for their business, but you're also helping people get out of their shell and speak into a mic and speak in front of a camera.
100%. And that is a big burden for a lot of people. They really, really struggle with that. I've been fortunate that I've never really had that much of an issue. So I do try to normalize it as much as possible for anybody that I'm trying to work with. If you have a message that you want to let it out there isn't a better way to do that than through social media. And it does come with just simply repetition. I'm actually working with my mom right now. She's starting a YouTube channel. So that's a labor of love over there. But she's starting a YouTube channel and she is dealing with a lot of those issues right now. So you're very much right in that where you have to overcome that psychological part of it to then get into it and then eliminate all that fear, because it really doesn't matter. I think the best thing that you can do is set yourself up to kind of build yourself up to be like a raincoat and view all feedback, both positive and negative, as simply raindrops that go right off you, because you can't allow either the positive or the negative to sway your self-perception, because that's a dangerous, dangerous game. So I appreciate all the positive comments I ever receive. I always say thank you, but I don't let it get me too high, because I know the "you're an idiot" is coming up right next, and I don't want that to get me too low.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so really quick, I'm going to plug this event one more time again, folks.
Yes.
April 3rd, Living Legends in Leadership. Ben is going to be with us. We're so excited. And if you are interested in personal development, business, health, nutrition, human behavior, medicine, we've got experts in all of these fields talking about it. It's going to be amazing. For the viewers and listeners, why don't you just tell us your social media platform handles, and your mom's too, because why don't we try to get some viewers for your mom as well?
Yeah, okay, I'll plug that for sure. So on Instagram, I'm just Ben Leavitt _ So my name is spelled kind of weird. It's Leavitt, and then underscore. That's for me on Instagram. And then on YouTube, it's just first name, last name, Ben Leavitt. That's how you'll find me there. And then you can find my podcast through my YouTube channel as well, and that's just called Project Passion. And then for my mom's, hers is called. Let me see, I gotta double check that. Oh, there it is. Her YouTube channel is called Furry Friends Zone. So it's all about animal care and different animal related things. She's an animal nutter, so she makes content about that.
That's great. That's what we're here to do, is just share goodness and positivity, right?
That's it, man. That's what it's all about.
Okay, so thanks so much for sharing this time with us. Really excited to share the stage with you in April.
Can't wait.
And for all the listeners and viewers, if you like this content, obviously share it, give it a thumbs up, tag a friend, because really at the end of the day, everyone is trying to grow their social media. So Ben is definitely the guy in the business to be following, and he puts out amazing. Is it weekly video content on YouTube, or what's
Yep.
that?
Weekly on YouTube. Occasionally I'll drop 2 in a week. It really depends on how many I have in the holster.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, everyone. So thanks so much for tuning in. And I always leave it on this note. In life, we are filled with lots and lots of choices. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us.
Yes, can't wait to see you all at the event.
All right, over and out. I'm going to stop this recording here.